I'm Heather. I'm 32 years old. And 3 weeks ago, at my dad's retirement party, he did something that finally pushed me to erase myself from this family for good. Picture it, a sparkling country club ballroom, about 200 guests in fancy suits and cocktail dresses, champagne pouring like it never ends. My dad stood on stage with a microphone, calling up his family one by one, like we were part of his show, and when he got to me, he flashed that smile I've seen 1,000 times, the one that looks kind to strangers, but feels sharp like a blade. And this is my daughter Heather, he said. No degree, no future, just lives off the family. 200 people laughed. I didn't blink, I didn't tear up. I just smiled, lifted my glass and said, "Cheers. This is the last time any of you will ever see me." Then I walked out. The whole room went dead silent. What happened after that? That's the story I'm telling you. Before I keep going, take a second to like and subscribe. Only if you really want to know how this ends. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and what time it is there. Now let me take you back 12 years. To the day I was forced to leave college. We were the Evans family of Fairfield, Connecticut. That's how people knew us. Upper middle class, respectable. My dad, Richard Ivans, was the CEO of a mid-sized logistics company. We had a 6-bedroom colonial house on 2 acres, a Mercedes S-Class in the driveway, and a membership at the most exclusive country club in the county. From the outside, we looked perfect. My mom died when I was 8. Cancer, fast and brutal. I can't even picture her face clearly without photos. But I remember her hands, soft hands, always reaching for mine. 2 years later, my dad remarried a woman named Linda. She came with a son from her first marriage, Marcus, 3 years older than me. And within months, they weren't just joining our family. They became the family. I became background. Not in some dramatic Cinderella way. No screaming, no bruises, nothing you could point to and call abuse. Just invisibility. Marcus got praised for his grades. Mine got ignored. Marcus got a brand new car at 16. I got his old one. Marcus was the future of the company. And I was also there. My dad never hit me. He never yelled. He just looked through me like I was glass. Like he was trying to see whatever was behind me instead. But there was one person who actually saw me. My grandmother, Margaret Ivans, my dad's mother. She called me every Sunday. She asked about my classes, my friends, my goals, the things I wanted. She would say, "You remind me of me at your age, Heather. People underestimate you. But I don't. I see you." When she died, she left me something. Something nobody else in the family ever knew about. But I'm jumping ahead. In this family, I learned how to disappear. What I didn't know back then was that being invisible would later become my biggest weapon. The day my future got decided for me, I was 20 years old. Sophomore year at UConn, business major, a 3.8 gigapascals. I had plans, big plans. I had a scholarship application sitting on my desk for a summer program in London. Then my dad called me home on a Wednesday. A family meeting? He said those 2 words never meant anything good. I walked into his study, a mahogany desk, a leather chair, the walls covered in awards and certificates. Linda stood beside him, with her hand on his shoulder, like a loyal partner, like a team. "Heather," my dad started, barely looking up from his papers, "we need to make sacrifices as a family. Marcus has been accepted into the Wharton MBA program. It's a huge opportunity." My heart didn't even race because I already knew what was coming. "We can't afford both your tuition and his program," he continued. "So, we've decided you're going to take a break from school, just for now. Marcus's career will benefit the whole family." Linda nodded, her voice sweet like syrup. "A girl doesn't need an MBA to have a good life, Heather. You'll marry a nice man someday. That's what matters." I sat there frozen. Not because I was shocked. I'd spent 12 years training myself not to be shocked. But because a small, foolish part of me still hoped my dad would choose me. "You said you'd support my education," I heard myself say. "You promised Mom before she died." My dad's jaw tightened. "Things change," he said. "When the company settles down, I'll make it up to you." He never did. And later, I found out from a cousin who let something slip. There was plenty of money. They just decided I wasn't worth spending it on. I didn't fight them that day. I didn't beg. I just nodded. But inside, I made myself a promise. This would be the last time anyone else got to decide my value. I moved to Boston with $2,000 in savings and one suitcase full of clothes that didn't match the life I was leaving behind. My first apartment was a tiny studio, about 400 square feet, above a laundromat in Allston. The radiator banged all night. The walls were so thin I could hear my neighbor's TV like it was in my room. I ate ramen for dinner and day-old bagels from the cafe where I worked morning. But here's the thing about rock bottom. Once you're there, you cannot fall any lower. I got a job as an admin assistant at a small logistics company. Entry-level pay, minimum wage, but it came with benefits. The owner was a rough, blunt man named Walter Barnes, and somehow, he saw what my family never wanted to see. "You've got a brain, Heather," he told me one day. "Use it." So I did. I stayed late. I learned every system, every process, every workflow. At night I took free online classes. Supply chain management, operations, basic business skills, MIT open courses. That became my real college. I didn't call home. I didn't ask for money. When my dad's secretary mailed me a birthday card with a $50 check from the family, I ripped it up and threw it away, 4 years after I left Connecticut. I saved enough to start my own consulting firm, Meridian Consulting, LLC. It was just me, a laptop, and a rented desk in a co-working space. I kept my name off everything public, no LinkedIn, no interviews, no press, nothing. Every deal went through the company name and my lawyer. Why so secret? Because I knew my family. If they found out I was doing well, they'd either try to claim it or crush it. Some people build empires loudly, so the world claps for them. I built mine quietly, because quiet was the only language my family ever taught me. Grandma Margaret died 2 years ago when I was 30. I flew back to Connecticut for the funeral. I sat in the back of the church and listened to my dad give a speech about what a wonderful woman she was, how she lived for family. The irony was so thick I could taste it. At the reception, I stayed to myself. Nobody really noticed I was there, which was exactly what I wanted. But 3 days later, I got a call from a lawyer I'd never heard of. Eleanor Smith, Boston attorney, estate planning expert. "Miss Ivins," she said, "I represent your grandmother's separate estate. She created a trust in your name 8 years ago, and she was very clear that no other family member should ever know it exists." I nearly dropped my phone. "The trust was worth $800,000. She left a letter for you too," Eleanor said. "Do you want me to read it?" I said yes, but my voice sounded far away, like it wasn't mine. "My dearest Heather," Eleanor read. "I know what they did to you. I know about the tuition, the broken promises, all of it. I argued with your father until I had no words left. He wouldn't listen. He never does. This money is yours, no strings, no conditions. Use it to build the life you deserve, the life they tried to steal from you. Remember what I always told you. Don't let anyone tell you that you're not worthy. When they finally recognize your worth, it will be too late for them. I believe in you. I always have. All my love. Grandma Margaret." I used some of that money to grow Meridian Consulting. The rest I kept as protection. For a day I hoped would never come, but deep down I knew might. And that day came, 3 weeks ago. Let me tell you what Meridian looks like now. 15 employees. $4 million in yearly revenue. Offices in Back Bay, Boston. The kind of place where people take you seriously before you even speak. I wear Cartier now. Not because I'm trying to impress anyone, but because I earned it. We focus on logistics optimization, helping companies clean up their supply chains, cut waste, reduce costs, and run smoother. It's not glamorous, but it's profitable, and I'm good at it. Now, here's the part that would be funny if it didn't hurt. One of our biggest clients is Ivan's Logistics, my dad's company. They signed a 5-year contract with us 3 years ago. We handle their route planning, warehouse systems, consulting, carrier deals. The savings we create for them are worth about 40% of their annual revenue in operational efficiency, and my dad had no idea. All communication went through my team. All contracts were signed by my CFO, Daniel Reeves. The few times Richard Ivins praised Meridian at industry events, he was praising his own daughter's work. The same daughter he told everyone was worthless. 3 weeks ago, I got a formal invitation to his retirement party. Gold letters, fancy paper. Richard Ivins requests the pleasure of your company. I almost tossed it. Almost. But then I thought about Grandma Margaret. About 12 years of silence. About every promise broken, and every door slammed in my face. I RSVP'd yes. Not because I wanted peace. Not because I believed anything had changed. I went because I knew, with total certainty, my dad would do something unforgivable. And when he did, I wanted to be there to say goodbye, on my own terms. I just didn't realize how right I would be. The Fairfield Country Club hasn't changed in decades. Same chandeliers, same valet service, same crowd of old money and new ambition pretending they belong together. I wore a black Valentino dress, simple, clean, expensive, my grandmother's pearl earrings, a Cartier watch, an Hermes Birkin bag, not to show off, just because everything on me was mine. I paid for it, I earned it, and that mattered more to me than any label. Linda met me at the entrance. She'd aged, but that smile stayed the same. Warm on the outside, cold underneath. Chanel dress. Big diamonds. Her eyes scanned my outfit like she was checking a price list. Heather, you came, she said. Like it was both a nice surprise and an inconvenience. Your father wasn't sure you'd have something appropriate to wear. I smiled. How kind of him to worry. Inside, 200 guests mingled under crystal light. Connecticut's business crowd, bankers, lawyers, executives, politicians. I recognized some faces from old dinners. None of them recognized me. Marcus glided past with a stick-thin blonde on his arm and didn't even look my way. He was telling someone about his vision for the company. Classic Marcus. Big talk. Empty depth. Then I found my seat. Table 14. Far corner. Near the service entrance. Surrounded by friends of the family I'd never met. Not at the family table. Not even close. I wasn't shocked, but I noticed. A waiter offered champagne. Dom Perignon. Nothing but the best for Richard Ivins' big night. I took a glass. Across the room, I caught my dad's eye. He gave one small nod. Dismissal, dressed as acknowledgement. Then, turned right back to the people he actually cared about. The night had just started, and I had a front row seat to my own family's disrespect. Over the years I learned something. The best information comes when you stay quiet and listen. From my corner table I watched and I heard everything. That ballroom carried voices better than people realized. My dad was holding court near the bar. Surrounded by business buddies, he was tossing around executive words like restructuring and strategic partnerships. Then I heard the name. Meridian Consulting has been transformative for us, he told a silver-haired shipping executive I recognized. They're basically the backbone of our operations now. Whoever runs that company is a genius. The other man nodded. I've been trying to meet them for months. Very private outfit. Do you know who's behind it? My dad shrugged. Never met them. Everything goes through legal and account managers. Honestly, I don't care who they are, as long as they keep delivering. I took a slow sip to hide my smile. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Daniel, my CFO, renewal docs from Ivins Logistics, came in today. They want another 5 years. Waiting on your call. I typed back. I'll decide by end of week. What my dad didn't know, what nobody in that room knew, was that our contract was close to renewal. If we walked away, Ivins Logistics would lose 40% of their operational efficiency overnight. In logistics, that's not a small problem. That's a slow death. I hadn't decided what to do. Part of me wanted to keep business separate from personal poison. But as I watched my dad soak in praise for his company's success partly built on my work, I felt something inside me shift. Tonight was going to decide everything. I went to the bar for a refill, or maybe just to move and calm the strange heat in my chest. That's when I ran into the extended family firing squad. Aunt Susan, Linda's younger sister, spotted me first. Her face did that quick change, surprise, then pity, then condescension in half a second. Heather, oh my goodness, I almost didn't recognize you. She looked me up and down. You look, well, still up in Boston, doing whatever it is you do. Consulting, I said. Supply chain work. Oh, how nice, she said in a way that made it sound like I told her I collect bottle caps. Are you seeing anyone? Your father said you're still single. 32, right? Time goes fast. Then Uncle David joined, smiling like he was doing me a favor. Richard was just telling me you're still figuring things out. Nothing wrong with being a late bloomer. I guess not everyone is meant for traditional success. And that's when it hit me. Cold and clear. My dad had prepped them. He gave them the story ahead of time. The family disappointment. The unstable one. The one who never made it. Aunt Susan leaned closer, whispering like she had secret news. Richard said you had some emotional struggles after you left school. Mental health stuff. So brave of you to come tonight, honey. My grip tightened on my champagne glass. Not because I was hurt. That stage was over. It tightened because of the nerve. I appreciate your concern, I said, voice steady. But I'm doing great, better than I've ever been. They exchanged looks that said, poor thing doesn't even realize how far she fell. I excused myself before I said something sharp, but a plan started forming in my mind. Clear, calm, unavoidable. Marcus found me on the terrace, staring out at the golf course. The air was cool, and stars were starting to show. Well, well, he said behind me, dripping with disrespect. The prodigal daughter. I didn't turn. Marcus. He stepped close enough that I could smell his cologne. Tom Ford. Probably a gift for my dad. Dad's about to speak, he said. Just making sure you're not planning some dramatic moment. Why would I? Because you've always been jealous. He said like it was fact. The way you freaked out over the tuition decision. The way you ran to Boston like some wounded animal. You never got over it. I turned then and looked him up and down. $5,000 suit, Rolex, perfect hair. Is that what you tell yourself? His eyes narrowed. I heard you started some little company up there. Playing businesswoman? He laughed, short and cruel. How long before it collapses? 6 months? A year? Then you'll come begging dad again? I won't, you will, he snapped. You always do. You're weak, Heather. You always have been. I could have told him right then about Meridian, about the contract, about how the future CEO was standing on a foundation built by the sister he mocked. But some truths need the right stage. Believe whatever helps you sleep, I said. I stepped past him, then paused. But I promise you this, Marcus. After tonight, you're going to wish you treated me differently. He laughed behind me. Arrogant, careless. He had no clue what was coming. None of them did. Inside, the lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the stage. My dad climbed the steps to loud applause, like he was a hero taking his final bow. Thank you, he said, voice smooth and practiced. 40 years in this business, it's been one heck of a ride. More laughs, more clapping. He thanked partners, employees, mentors, thanked God, thanked luck, and basically thanked himself for everything. Then he moved to family. I couldn't have done any of this without my incredible wife, Linda, he said, gesturing toward her table. 30 years of putting up with late nights and business trips. You're a saint. Applause. Linda dabbed her eyes right on cue. And my son Marcus, he continued, who will take over as CEO in January. The future of Ivan's Logistics. I couldn't be prouder. Standing ovation. Marcus stood and waved like royalty. Then my dad's eyes found me, and something ugly slid into his expression. And of course, my daughter Heather. The spotlight swung to my table. I felt 200 pairs of eyes snap toward me. No degree, no real career, my dad said. Just lives off the family. He paused, letting it land like a punchline. But hey, at least she showed up tonight. Maybe someday she'll marry a rich guy to take care of her. The room exploded with laughter, real laughter, the kind that comes from people who think cruelty is entertainment because it's dressed up like a joke. I sat still. I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I didn't look away. I waited for the laughter to fade. The room quieted as I rose. I could feel every stare. Curious, pitying, ready to watch me fall apart, like they were waiting for the unstable daughter to finally break. I lifted my champagne glass slowly. On purpose. My dad's smile twitched. He didn't expect this. I was supposed to sit there and swallow it like always. I raised my glass toward him. Congrats on your retirement, Dad, I said. My voice was calm, clear, loud enough for every mic to catch it. 40 years in business. That's a real accomplishment. I paused. You taught me a lot about hard work, about sacrifice, and about the exact kind of loyalty a family can expect. From you. The silence turned heavy. You could hear ice clink in a glass somewhere far away. So here's to you, I said, lifting my glass higher. Cheers. This is the last time any of you will ever see me. I set the glass down without drinking. I picked up my Birkin, turned, and walked toward the exit. My heels clicked against the floor. One sharp sound after another, in a room that had gone totally still. I didn't run. I didn't rush. I just walked back straight, head high. Behind me, complete silence. Someone gasped. Someone whispered. Mostly it was the sound of my footsteps and 200 people trying to understand what they just saw. The daughter who was supposed to be broken just walked out on her own terms. I pushed through the double doors into the night air, and for the first time in 12 years, I could breathe. I was almost at my car, a black Tesla Model S with a custom plate reading MRDD1, when I heard fast footsteps behind me. Heather! Heather! Stop! Linda's voice was high and angry. I kept walking. What do you think you're doing? She grabbed my arm and spun me around. Her face was red under the club lights. The perfect mask cracked. Do you realize what you just did? You embarrassed your father, in front of everyone. I stared at her hand on my arm until she let go. I embarrassed him. I asked quietly. I think you've got it backwards. Then my dad appeared behind her, face dark like a storm cloud. I knew people were watching from the windows. He knew it too. I could see him calculating. Get back inside, he said, voice low and threatening. Apologize now. No. The word just hung there. This isn't up for debate, he snapped. I'm your father and you're telling me, what? I cut him off. Something I'd never done. That I should go back in there and let you use me as your joke again? That I should smile while you tell 200 people I'm worthless? He stared like he couldn't believe I spoke. It was a joke, he said. No, I said. It's the truth of how you see me, and I'm done pretending it's funny. I opened my car door. My dad stepped forward. If you leave right now, you're done. Do you understand? No family, no support, nothing. I almost laughed. Dad, you cut me off 12 years ago. You just didn't have the guts to say it out loud tonight. I'm saying it for both of us. I got in the driver's seat, started the engine, and looked at him one last time. Goodbye, then I drove away. I pulled into a rest stop, about 20 minutes outside Fairfield, and just sat there, engine running, hands still on the wheel. For a while, I only breathed. Now let me step out of the story for a second and talk to you. Directly. I know some of you watching have lived something like this. Maybe not a retirement party, maybe not 200 witnesses, but that feeling of being the family problem. The one they talk about quietly, the one whose wins they refuse to notice. I know you get it. If you've ever sat at a family event while someone turned you into the joke. If you've ever smiled through pain, because reacting would prove them right. If you've ever loved people who made you feel invisible, this story is for you. So here's what I'm asking. If any of this hits you, leave a comment, tell me your story, or just say I'm here. Because knowing I'm not alone, that means more than you think. And if you want to know what happened next, trust me, the next part is where everything changes. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell, because what my dad learned in the weeks after that party, let's just say he learned exactly how wrong he was about me. Now, back to it. The morning after the party, I woke up in my Boston apartment feeling lighter than I had in years. But I knew it wasn't finished. Families like mine don't let go easy. They try to control the story. They twist the facts. They paint you as the villain. What they didn't know was that I had something they couldn't twist their way out of. Let me tell you about the week after. First came texts. Not from my dad. He was too proud. But from cousins, aunts, family, friends I hadn't spoken to in years, suddenly worried. Heather, I heard about the party. Your dad says you're not okay. Do you need help? Susan said you had a breakdown. We're all concerned. Your father loves you. He just wants what's best. Maybe apologize and come home. The story was already being written. Poor Heather, unstable and jealous, had an episode. Richard Ivins, patient and loving father, trying his best with a troubled daughter. I didn't answer any of them. Then came the more interesting call. Tuesday afternoon, a Connecticut number I didn't recognize. I answered anyway. Miss Ivins, this is James Crawford. The voice said, smooth and professional. I'm a partner at Ivins Logistics. I'm calling for Richard. He'd like to talk about mending fences. My stomach went cold. Really? The man continued. Between you and me, there's been some concerning talk about your connection to certain business partners. Probably nothing. But Richard thought it would be smart to clear the air. Rumors? Business partners? They were probing. Fishing. What kind of rumors? I asked, keeping my voice flat. Something about Meridian Consulting, he said. Someone thought they saw you at their office once. I'm sure it's a mix-up. My mind raced. How did anyone see me? When? I don't know what you mean, I said. But tell my father I have nothing to discuss. Then I hung up. They were getting close. Closer than I expected. That was my sign. Time to stop waiting. Time to move. While I was getting concerned texts in Boston, my dad was facing a different kind of panic back in Connecticut. I found out later what happened in that boardroom. Richard Ivins walked into what should have been a normal quarterly meeting. Instead, his CFO looked like he'd seen a ghost. We have a problem with Meridian Consulting, the CFO said, sliding a folder across the mahogany table. Their contract is up for renewal in 6 months. They haven't responded to the extension offer. Richard frowned. Send another offer? Improve the terms if you have to. We've already tried 3 times, the CFO said. Their legal team keeps saying under review. We tried contacting their executives directly too. The CFO shifted, uncomfortable. Sir, Meridian is extremely private. Nobody meets the leadership. Everything goes through third parties. Richard's frown deepened. We've worked with them 3 years. Someone must have met them. No, sir. The CFO said. It's all virtual lawyers, account managers. No one here has ever met the actual owner. Silence. Then the CFO added. If they walk away, we lose 40% of our operational efficiency within 60 days. It would take at least 18 months to replace them, and that's best case, Richard snapped. I know what it means. He stared at the folder, and something started to bother him. The timing. The silence. The fact this was happening right after the party. Find out who owns that company, he said. I don't care how. I want a name by the end of the week. What he didn't know, what he was about to learn, was that the name he wanted was already on his own family tree. Thursday night my phone rang. Linda. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Heather, sweetheart, she said, voice dripping with fake care. I've been so worried about you. Have you? Of course, she said quickly. We're family. That's what family does. She laughed softly like we were close. Listen about the party. Your father feel awful. He didn't mean it. You know how he gets nervous, trying to be funny. I let the silence stretch. He said I have no future and no worth in front of 200 people. I said. He exaggerates when he's anxious, she replied. Recalibrating fast. Why don't you come home this weekend? Dinner. Just the 4 of us. Clear the air. Start fresh. I could picture her sitting in that perfect living room, practicing this call, planning each word. The concerned stepmom, the peacemaker, the bridge. Does Dad want to apologize? I asked. A tiny pause. He wants to move forward, she said. That's what matters. So no apology. Heather, don't be difficult, she said. We're trying to help. I laughed once, short. Help me now, I said. Linda, you spent 22 years making sure I knew I wasn't really part of this family. So why are you calling now? Another pause. Longer. Her voice dropped, its sweetness. I think we'd both know there's more happening here than just family drama. Whatever you're planning, it would be better if you came home and talked. No, I said. And I hung up. They knew something. They just didn't know how much they should fear yet. The next morning I went to Eleanor Smith's office in downtown Boston. Sleek, clean, glass and steel, skyline view. The kind of place where serious moves get made. Eleanor greeted me like she expected me. I assume this is about Ivan's logistics, she said. They're investigating Meridian. They're trying to find out who owns it. She wasn't surprised. Your anonymity was never going to last forever, she told me. So the question is, how do you want this to play out? She laid out documents across her desk. The Meridian contract with Ivan's logistics. Every clause. Every renewal detail. Every exit option. My trust paperwork. My company registration. Your contract has a standard 30-day termination notice, she said, pointing. You can end the agreement for any reason. No penalty. No legal risk. She tapped the trust documents. And your grandmother's trust is totally separate from the Ivans family estate. It's solid. Richard has no claim, even if he tried to fight it. She looked at me over her glasses. Margaret made sure. I stared at the papers. Everything was clean. Everything was legal. Every line had been planned. What did my grandmother say when she set up the trust? I asked. Eleanor smiled sadly. She said one day Heather will need leverage, and when that day comes, I want her to have it. My eyes burned. Grandma was still protecting me. She said something else too, Eleanor added. She told me, tell her not to be cruel. Just be honest. Sometimes the truth is punishment enough. I nodded. Truth it is. That afternoon, I sat with Daniel Reeves, my CFO, in Meridian's conference room. Daniel had been with me since year 2. He knew everything. My family. Ivan's logistics. Why my name stayed off paperwork. He was loyal, sharp, and the closest thing I had to real backup. They want to renew, he said, scrolling. 5 more years, they're even offering 12% more. They're nervous, I said. They should be. I pulled up projections on the screen. Numbers don't lie. And these numbers screamed. If we walked away, Ivan's logistics would lose 40% of efficiency within 60 days. That's not a dip. That's a fall. Clients would leave. Margins would collapse. Daniel nodded. Marcus just took over as CEO. If this hits on his watch, his reputation is dead before it begins. We sat there, letting it sink in. It felt unreal, having power over people who spent years making me feel powerless. What do you want to do? Daniel asked. I thought about Grandma Margaret's words, about revenge versus truth, about what kind of person I wanted to be. Draft the termination notice, I said finally. 30-day notice, straight contract language, no insults, no blame, just business. Daniel nodded. And the reason? Strategic repositioning, I said. That's all they need, officially. Then I paused. But I'm also writing my dad a personal letter. Separate envelope. He deserves to know exactly who's been keeping his company standing, and exactly why it's ending. When do we send it? Daniel asked. Monday morning, I said. First thing. No more hiding, no more waiting. I spent all Sunday writing that personal letter. Daniel handled the official notice, the legal language, the clean corporate wording, the cold explanation that would sit in a file forever. But I wrote the truth. I went through 7 drafts. The first was too angry, pages of pain and blame. The second was too icy. The third sounded desperate. The final one was simple, clear. Dear Dad, you said I had no future. You told 200 people I was worthless. I want you to know something. Meridian Consulting, the company you call the backbone of Ivan's logistics, is mine. I built it. I own it. For 3 years. The daughter you dismissed has been supporting your business. I'm ending our contract, not as revenge, but as a boundary. Grandma Margaret left me a trust you never knew about. She saw what you refused to see, that I was worth investing in. Everything I have, I built without your support. I don't need an apology. I don't need you to understand. I only need you to know this, I am not who you said I was. I never was. Do not contact me again, Heather Margaret Evans. I used my middle name on purpose. I added it 3 years ago to honor the only person in that family who truly believed in me. I included a copy of Meridian's incorporation papers. My name clear, as sole owner. I read the letter 3 times, checking for typos, checking that it wasn't NTL by emotion. It was just truth. And sometimes truth is the sharpest thing there is. Monday morning. The courier confirmation came through. The package was delivered to Ivan's logistics headquarters. Someone named Patricia Chen signed for it, Richard's executive assistant. I remembered her from childhood. I sat in my office and waited. My phone lit up like fireworks. Missed call from Richard, then another, then Marcus, then Linda, then Richard again. Texts. Call me now. What is this? Heather, this is not funny. Pick up. By noon, I had 12 missed calls, 8 texts, and 2 voicemails I didn't even listen to. I didn't answer. I waited 12 years for this moment. They could wait a few more hours. At 2 in the afternoon, my assistant knocked on my door. Miss Ivans. There's a family here saying they need to see you immediately. They're in the lobby. So they drove to Boston. 5 hours of traffic and fear just to confront me. I took a deep breath, straightened my blazer, checked my reflection in the window. Send them to conference room B, I said. I'll be there in 5 minutes. This was it. The confrontation I pictured 1,000 times. I thought of Grandma Margaret. Don't be cruel, she said. Just be honest. I stood, smoothed my skirt, and walked toward the room. Time to be honest. Conference room B had glass walls. I chose it on purpose. My 15 employees could see inside, even if they couldn't hear. Witnesses, not to embarrass anyone, but to keep things respectful. Richard, Linda, and Marcus stood near the window, staring out at the Boston skyline like they couldn't believe they were on my ground, in my world. My dad turned when I walked in. He looked older than I'd ever seen. His face was gray. Heather, he said, and his voice cracked on my name. What is this? Hello, Dad, I said. Linda, Marcus. I sat at the head of the table, calm and professional. I assume you got my letter. Marcus stepped forward, furious, pointing. You can't just sit down, Marcus, I said, quiet but firm. I'm not discussing anything while you're shouting. He looked at my dad. Richard gave a sharp nod. They sat. My dad leaned forward. This is some misunderstanding, he said. What part? I asked. Meridian Consulting. You can't possibly own a company like that. You didn't. I did, I said. I slid a folder across. Registration, tax filings, client list. 3 years ago your company signed a contract with mine. You praised our work. You called us transformative. You just didn't realize you were praising me. Linda's face drained. But you don't even have a degree, she blurted. I'm sorry, I said, tilting my head. A degree makes you valuable, or does it just make you easier to control? I turned to my dad. You want to know the worst part? I would have kept the contract going. I wasn't planning to destroy you. But then you stood in front of 200 people and told them I was worthless. I paused. You chose this? My dad's mask cracked for a second. I thought I saw understanding in his eyes. Then it vanished. What do you want? He asked flatly. Nothing you can give me, I said. There has to be something, Linda insisted. You're not listening, I said. I never wanted anything from you. I just want you to finally know the truth. My dad's voice went cold. Fine. If that's how you want to play it, you walk away from this family. You're done. No inheritance, nothing. I almost laughed. Dad, you cut me off at 20. What inheritance? His eyes narrowed. I can make things difficult. I have lawyers. Connections. On what grounds? I asked. I leaned forward. Every document is legal. Every contract was signed the right way. There's nothing you can sue me for, and you know it. He glared. Don't be so sure. I am sure, I said. Because my lawyer, who was also Grandma Margaret's lawyer, viewed every angle already. I let it sit. You remember Eleanor Smith? Grandma picked her on purpose because she knew you might try something one day. Linda gasped. Margaret knew. She knew everything. I said she left me a trust fund. $800,000, structured so you couldn't touch it. I pulled out a copy. She knew exactly what kind of family she raised. That's why she protected me from it. My dad's face went from red to white. She had no right, he snapped. It was her money, I said. She had every right. I stood. This meeting is over. Linda's voice shook. Heather, please, we're family. We share blood, I said. That's it. I opened the door wider. I'm not asking for an apology. I'm not asking for peace talks. I'm setting a boundary. Don't contact me again. Don't show up here. Don't call. Don't text. And don't talk about me like I'm your story to rewrite. I paused, then added the last part, calm as ice. If you push me, I will release everything. Emails, documents, records of how you treated me. It's all backed up. It's all legal. And it would make a very interesting article in the business press. I nodded toward the hallway. Reception will escort you out. I stood there as they gathered themselves. 3 people who spent my whole life making me feel small. Now looking small. My dad stood slowly, like an old man suddenly aware of his age. Linda clutched her handbag like armor. Marcus stared at me with something new. Not contempt. Fear. This isn't over. Marcus muttered. Yes it is. I said every word. Linda's lip trembled like she was about to perform another scene. Heather, blood isn't love, I said. Let me go. My dad stopped right in front of me. For a moment, we just stared at each other, father and daughter, strangers sharing a last name. You really hate us that much? He whispered. No, I said. I don't hate you. That's what you don't understand. I looked him straight in the eyes. I just don't need you anymore. He didn't have an answer for that. They walked out past my employees, who politely pretended not to watch. The glass doors closed behind them. I went back to my desk, opened my laptop, and got back to work. Let me pause again. If you're still watching, thank you. This isn't easy to say out loud, and knowing you're here matters. And if you think that's where the story ends, it's not. The fallout from that day went further than I expected. When I sent that termination notice, I thought I was just protecting myself. I didn't expect what it would do to Ivan's logistics, to my dad's name, and to the secrets that would start spilling out once people started talking. So here's my ask. If this story hits you, hit like. It helps more than you know. Subscribe if you haven't, and turn notifications on because the ending is messy and complicated, and it taught me something about revenge I didn't expect. Also, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from family? Did it feel like freedom? Or grief? I read every comment, and they honestly helped me feel less alone. Now back to the story. 1 week after that meeting, I got a call from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Someone who told me something that changed everything I thought I knew about my family and why they treated me the way they did. The caller was Uncle Robert, my dad's younger brother. Robert was always the black sheep in the Ivans family, an artist, a dreamer, the one who didn't want the business life. I hadn't seen him since my mom's funeral. Heather, his voice sounded older, rougher. I heard what happened at the party. And at Richard's office. Word travels. He paused. There's something you deserve to know. Something I should have said years ago, but I was too scared. I sat down slowly. I'm listening. He exhaled. When your father said the family couldn't afford your tuition and Marcus's MBA, that was a lie. I know, I said. No, he replied. You don't know the full truth. It wasn't just that there was money. There was a specific fund. Your mother set it up before she died. For your education. Enough to cover 4 full years at any school. My chest went tight. Richard drained it. Robert said, voice cracking, used it for Marcus's MBA. Then told you there was nothing. The room felt like it tilted. I gripped the edge of my desk. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because I was afraid of your father. He admitted. We all were. He swallowed. Margaret found out. That's why she made the trust for you. She couldn't get your mother's money back. But she could stop Richard from taking anything else. I thought about Grandma's letter. I know what they did to you. She knew. She always knew. 2 months after I ended the Meridian contract, the consequences became public. I wasn't watching their downfall like some villain. I was trying to heal. Trying to move forward. But in Connecticut business circles, news moves fast, especially bad news. Ivan's Logistics announced a 20% workforce cut. 70 employees laid off right before the holidays. Their press release blamed market conditions and strategic restructuring. But everybody knew the real reason. Their biggest consulting partner walked away, and they couldn't recover fast enough. Marcus, barely 3 months into being CEO, was already being questioned by the board. His vision was falling apart under the weight of my dad's mistakes. Richard came out of retirement to manage the mess. The legacy exit he dreamed about, gone, but the bigger damage was reputation. People talked. Not because I spread anything, I stayed quiet. But 200 people watched my dad mock his daughter in public. And when those same people learned that daughter was the company's most important partner, the whispers turned into a storm. Did you hear what Richard Ivans did? He humiliated his daughter. And she was keeping him afloat. That family always felt off. In Connecticut, reputation is currency. And Richard's was collapsing. Someone told me at a dinner. Richard sat alone. Nobody wanted to be linked to the man who publicly disowned the person who secretly held his business together. I didn't feel happy hearing that. I didn't feel proud. I just felt tired. Grandma was right. Sometimes the truth is punishment enough. I didn't have to do anything else. The truth did the rest. 6 months later, I was sitting in a therapist's office in Beacon Hill. Not because I was breaking, because I was finally ready to rebuild myself. "You don't seem like someone who needs therapy, doctor," Patel said in our first session. "Everyone needs therapy," I told her. "I'm just finally admitting it." We talked about my family, about being invisible, about the weight of building success in silence, about the strange grief of cutting ties with people who were supposed to love me. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "No," I said. "I regret that it had to happen. But I don't regret protecting myself." Outside therapy, my life kept growing. Meridian kept winning. We replaced the Ivan's contract with 3 smaller clients, more stable, more balanced. Daniel got promoted. I hired 4 new employees. We moved into a bigger office with a harbor view. I reconnected with Uncle Robert. We had dinner once a month. He told me real stories about my mom, not the polished, fake versions my dad used. He said she was fierce, stubborn, a fighter. "You're just like her," Robert told me. "She'd be so proud." I kept Grandma Margaret's photo on my desk. I visited her grave once a month. I brought flowers. I told her about my life. It felt strange talking to a headstone, but it also felt healing. "I did it, Grandma," I told her one spring morning. "I didn't let them define me." The wind moved through the trees, and if I listened close enough, I could almost hear her voice. "Sweetheart, I always knew." So here's what I learned. If you want the lesson of this story, your worth is not decided by a degree. It's not decided by your family's opinion. It's not decided by who cheers for you or who tries to break you. Your worth is what you build when nobody's watching. It's who you become when everyone counts you out. It's the life you create with your own hands. My dad thought he was teaching me a lesson at that retirement party. He thought he was putting me in my place. What he really did was set me free. I don't hate my family. That's the part people struggle to understand. Hate takes energy. Hate keeps you chained. I'd rather spend my energy on people who deserve it, on work I believe in, on relationships that actually feed my soul, on a life that's truly mine. Boundaries aren't revenge. They're protection. They're you saying, "This is where my life begins, and your damage ends." If you're in a family that makes you feel small, if people treat your potential like a threat, if you've ever been the scapegoat, the disappointment, the invisible one, I see you. I've been you. And I promise you there is life on the other side of walking away. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. If it touched you, subscribe, hit the notification bell, check the description for more stories like this. And remember this, you are not what they said you were. You never were. You are so much more. Until next time, this is Heather and I'm finally free. ChatGPT can make mistakes. OpenAI doesn't use in-depth workspace data to train its models.